So we're finishing up the protein section today, and we're going to talk about denaturing proteins to start with. When you denature a protein, you unwind it. So changes in temperature and pH can denature or unfold a protein so it no longer works. So for example, if you look at an egg, if it's raw, this part will be clear, and then you cook it and it gets to be white. So what happened there is that the heat made the protein unfold, and so now the protein is a different shape and it doesn't work the same way anymore. Sometimes denaturing will be in one direction. Once it's denatured, that's it. And so that's the case of the egg that's cooked. In other cases, if you denature the protein, especially if it just gets denatured a little bit, it can fold back up the right way. And this is whey, I guess, as in curds and whey. So cooking denatures proteins in eggs, and milk protein separates into curds and whey when it denatures. And so here's Little Miss Muffet. Okay, changing amino acid sequence. This is super, super important. So the amino acid sequence, that means the order of amino acids in a protein. And so we had talked about hemoglobin and insulin last time, and hemoglobin has a different order of amino acids than insulin, and that's why hemoglobin carries oxygen and insulin controls your blood sugar. So the order of amino acids is super important. If something happens to your DNA, a mutation, and it changes the DNA, that will change, it may change the order of amino acids, and that can change the function of the protein. So if the amino acid sequence for a protein is wrong, the protein may not fold the right way. Its shape may be all wrong, and it may not work. It might work better. Usually it doesn't work, though. So here's an example of hemoglobin again. And so in your red blood cells, this is the order of hemoglobin. Valine is the first amino acid, and then histidine, leucine, threonine, proline, glutamate, I guess. Anyway, you have all of these amino acids that go in a certain order. And because they have that order, they interact a certain way. They have those R groups that will be attracted to each other or maybe not attracted to each other. And so the protein will fold in a certain way. And so the hemoglobin protein will be found in the red blood cells, and it forms a glob and it carries oxygen. Substitution of one amino acid for another in hemoglobin causes sickle cell disease. So this is what a red blood cell looks like when it's sickled, which happens when you have sickle cell anemia, which means you have sickle cell hemoglobin that's been deprived of oxygen just a little bit. And so the sixth amino acid, instead of glutamate, you have valine. And this means that it's going to be shaped a different way, and so it doesn't carry oxygen quite the same way. And when it gets low in oxygen, it actually forms these spiky molecules instead of these nice round globby molecules. And so we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to the genetics unit. Here's a link below that I want you to look at. We'll look at this in class, but if you're doing this at home, type this into your computer. And I think I'll try to remember to put this up on It's Learning, so you can just click on it and you'll see a video of a baby who has cystic fibrosis, and there's an amino acid that's different, and so the order of amino acids in the protein is different, and so the protein isn't shaped the same way, and this baby has a disease. Okay, important proteins. So we're going to go over a few specific proteins that are important. Blood sugar level is controlled by the protein insulin, and you'll hear that a lot. I use it as an example a lot in class, so this is one example you should probably know. And that's what it looks like when it's all folded the right way. The cell membrane also contains proteins that act as receptors, hormones, and ID tags. And so here's the cell membrane, and we talked about these cute little phospholipids. These are not proteins. But these things are proteins, and those proteins can have different functions. So this has a carbohydrate attached. This might be an ID tag that says, hey, I'm a cell and I belong to your liver and I belong to Miss Asian. And a different cell could come in with different proteins and carbs on it, and I might say, ooh, you're foreign, I better fight you. You might be measles, I better fight you off. Here's another protein that acts as a transport protein, and it allows things to go in and out of the cell. Same with this one. This one might be a receptor for a hormone. So the proteins have a lot of different functions. Some proteins are enzymes. An enzyme is a chemical that speeds up, it's a biological molecule that speeds up a chemical reaction. It's known as a catalyst. A catalyst is anything that speeds up a chemical reaction. An enzyme is a biological catalyst. So it's anything that speeds up a chemical reaction that's biological. You have lots and lots of enzymes that do tons and tons and tons of chemical reactions in your body, and they are so important that they get their own section of notes in another couple days. And I know, I can't wait either. And here's the baby crying. And I think I'm done with this little section. Yep. Goodbye.